Okay, namaskar everyone. So today we're going to talk about foundational ethics, Yama and Niyama, and also compare it to other ethical frameworks. It's a little bit more it's based on different cultures and how they see ethics. So the first part of this presentation, and it's going to be quite short, it's going to be about Yama and Niyama and where it comes from. So the ethical core of traditional yoga practice, which is Yama and Niyama, comes from from Yoga Sutras that was written by Patanjali around 2nd century, from 2nd to the 5th century. It also part of 8 limbs of yoga, or Ashtanga yoga. And the first 2 limbs are Yama and Niyama, and they serve as universal moral and ethical principles. And they help a lot with establishing ourselves in meditation practices. They serve as a foundation for it. So even before starting meditation, it's very, very recommended to get yourself established very well in Yama and Niyama principles. Sri Srianandamurti says, sadhana, in its very start, requires mental equilibrium. This sort of mental harmony may also be termed as morality. And so to establish this mental equilibrium, it's very important to use ethical principles, because they make your mind calm and clear, and you can practice deeper. So in Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, it was said, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, yama. And it just describes that these 5 first principles are part of yamas, which are responsible for our взаимодействие.
Interaction
with the external world. And so here's the short meaning of each of them. Ahimsa, non-violence, avoidance of harm in thought, word, action. Satya, benevolent truth, honesty and integrity. Asteya, non-stealing, respect for others' time and property. Brahmacharya, Brahman means ultimate reality and Charya means conduct, to remain attached to Brahma. And aparigraha, non-possessiveness, letting go of material attachment. I think I need to describe them a little bit more in detail, just slightly more. So ahimsa means not just avoidance of harm, but also active action in order to protect dharma, or in order to be non-violent and also protective of others. Satya means not just truth as facts, but also as benevolence. So we not only state the facts, but we also make sure that our truth is not harmful and is used in a correct place with in the correct time with the correct person. Asteya means non-stealing. Yeah, it can also mean respect others' time in the sense that it's a nuanced thing. So it can mean that you need to ask before using someone's time or property to make sure that this person is good with it and you're not exploiting their kindness. So brahmacharya means to remain attached to Brahma, and it's when you keep remembering what you experience in meditation, you keep bringing it into everything you do in the real world. And in this way, you keep meditating the whole day. So you keep practicing even while you're not meditating. Aparigraha means non-possessiveness. And it means letting go of attachments, all kinds of attachments, and not taking advantage of things that are not really necessary for your basic needs and in general for your well-being. You know what is meaningful, what needs to be left, and what needs to be gone. So you keep things simple. And so there are also 5 niyamas. In Patanjali said, Shaocha Santosha Tapah Svathyaya Ishvara Pranidhana Niyama. Shaocha means purity or cleanliness of body and mind. Santosha, contentment, acceptance and peace with what is. Tapah, discipline, austerity, inner fire, commitment. Svathyaya, self-study, study of scripture and self-inquiry. Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to God, devotion to higher reality. So Shaocha means purity, and it helps us with, again, keeping our focus and priorities straight. When you clean not only body or environment, but also your mind, you keep yourself aligned with your goals, your mission, your higher purpose. Santosha is contentment, acceptance and peace with what is. It's when we notice that we are already content, that we are already completely happy and satisfied, but it doesn't mean that we are not moving forward, that we are not improving. We are just moving from this place of full contentment. And it also helps because we are not striving to get rid of what we don't like in ourselves or our surroundings. We are not moving from the place of negativity, but we strive to improve things from a place of love and acceptance. Tapah means discipline. It helps to keep yourself inspired when you help others grow or help yourself grow. This inner fire is always there, and it's always inspiring you. So yeah, Swadhyaya is self-study and also the study of spiritual texts and scriptures. It's very useful to study our patterns, what we do, how we do it, and for example, use journaling for this purpose to notice what we want to improve, what we want to change, what is not useful anymore, and also to study scriptures and spiritual text, not just reading the words, but truly understanding what it means and also being ready to implement it right away. Ishvara Pranidhana is surrender to God or devotion to a higher reality. This is considered the most important one and the hardest probably, because we sometimes need to let our control go and surrender. So yeah, those were the 10 principles. And now we can compare them to what Aristotle taught. Jipesh, can you read, please?
Yeah, sure. So the framework element, ethical basis. So in yoga, restraint and observance. Aristotle, cultivation of virtues, courage, temperance. The goal, yoga is liberation. Aristotle, flourishing. The means, yoga, discipline, introspection. Aristotle, reason, habituation. And the theological ground, yoga, theistic. Aristotle, secular, rational.
Thank you. Yes, so Aristotle was a Greek philosopher, and he studied ethics, logic, politics, biology, metaphysics, psychology, and more. And he was a student of Plato and tutor of Alexander the Great. And so he emphasized observation, reason, and the pursuit of human flourishing, which he called eudaimonia. And his method combined empirical investigation with logical classification, laying the foundations of Western philosophy and science. And so his teachings were kind of, well, maybe on the surface similar to what we do in Ananda Marga. So the 4 principles that he discovered or taught were: first, the goal of life is eudaimonia, and it's all often translated as happiness, flourishing, or living well. But it's not living well or being happy in the sense of just feeling happy at the moment, but it's more like a life lived in accordance with virtue and reason over time. And virtue lies in the golden mean between excess and deficiency. For example, courage is between rashness and cowardice. Another principle was moral character is built through habituation. So we become just by doing just things. And the 4th one, ethics is practical, not theoretical. It guides how we live. Max, do you want to read this one?
Sure.
Ethical dimensions. So we have moral precepts, inner purification and goal. And then there's the yoga patajyati. So we have Yama and Niyama. Social tapas, liberation from suffering. In Buddhism, the Eightfold Path, we have Sila, right speech, action, mindfulness, right effort, and nirvana. And from Christianity, the Sermon on the Mount, interesting. Beatitudes, the Ten Commandments, prayers, confessions, and salvation.
Yeah, so this one kind of doesn't need a lot of explanation. It's just the comparison of the three. The next one is yoga versus Zen Buddhism. And so ethical foundation, Yama and Niyama, and precepts for Jukai, role of body. In yoga, central, asana breath. In Zen Buddhism, supportive, zazen posture. So it is helpful, but not the main focus. Purification method, tapas, self-study. In Zen Buddhism, it's zazen or meditation, and koan, introspection. It's when people ask questions and try to get the answer when they meditate, but not the logical one, but the understanding with the whole self. Attitude towards ego. In yoga, restraint, surrender. And in Zen Buddhism, non-self and emptiness. Okay, and the last one is going to be comparison. Even more in depth of Buddhism, Zen, Yama and Niyama, and Ten Commandments and Aristotle's virtue ethics. So it's mostly comparing the ethics of all these. Sasha, do you want to read these three?
Sure. Sorry, my screen is small. I'm just reading over the cell phone. So, okay. So, in ethical theme, we have non-violence, honesty, and non-stealing. So for Eightfold Path, which is Shila, we have right action, no killing for non-violence. In Jukal precepts and do not kill. In Yama Niyama, Yama Ahimsa, non-harming. In Ten Commandments, you shall not murder. In Aristotle's virtue ethics, virtue, gentleness, and justice. So for honesty, in Eightfold Paths, we have right speech. In Jukal precepts, then do not lie. In Yama Niyama, we have Yama, Satya, truthfulness. Ten Commandments, you shall not bear false witness. In Aristotle's virtue is truthfulness. For non-stealing, we have for Eightfold Paths, right action. For Jukal precepts, then do not steal. Yama asteya, non-stealing. Ten Commandments, you shall not steal. And for Aristotle is justice. Yeah, pretty much similar, right? So.
Thank you. Yeah, so they're very similar. We can find everything in each of them, kind of just in different words. Okay, so sexual ethics. In Eightfold Path, it's right action. In Jukai, do not misuse sexuality. In Yama and Niyama. Brahmacharya, even though it can be translated as keeping the focus on Brahma and not just as right use of energy. In 10 Commandments, you shall not commit adultery, and Aristotle's virtue ethics, temperance. Simplicity or not greed. In Eightfold Path, right livelihood. In Jukai, do not covet, do not intoxicate. Yama and Niyama, aparigraha, non-possessiveness. 10 Commandments, you shall not covet. Aristotle's virtue ethics, moderation. Contentment. Nothing in Eightfold Path. Jukai, practice gratitude and avoid jealousy. Niyama, santosha, contentment. 10 Commandments, nothing about that. Aristotle's virtue, contentment, gratitude. Self-discipline, an Eightfold Path, right effort. In Jukai, maintain practice, refrain from anger. In Yama Niyama tapas, discipline. In 10 Commandments, remember the Sabbath, rest, discipline. Aristotle's virtue ethics, self-control. Dipesh, do you want to read the last one?
Yeah. Ethical team, generosity, non-harming speech. Eightfold Path is right speech, right action. Zen, do not speak of others' faults. Yoga, Niyama, Shocha, purity, Swadhyaya, study of self and text. 10 Commandments, honor your parents, positive speech. Aristotle, virtue, friendship, generosity. Ethical team of reverence and devotion. Eightfold Path, right view, right intention. Zen, take refuge in 3 treasures. Yoga, Niyama, Ishvari Pranadhana, devotion to God. 10 Commandments, you shall have no other gods, no idols. Aristotle, virtue, piety, toward divine higher truth. So ethical theme of humility. Eightfold Path is right intention. Zen, do not praise self at others' expense. Yoga, implied across yogic practice. 10 Commandments, blank. Aristotle, virtue, humility, modesty.
I think I missed one very important slide, and it's about historical origins of Yama and Niyama. And it comes from the first, where it all comes from is Upanishad texts. And it was ancient Sanskrit text. And basically it was philosophical dialogues exploring the nature of reality, the self, and the ultimate truth. The main 4 things that were explored there is Atman, or the self, Paramatman, the ultimate reality, moksha, liberation, and neti neti, which means not this, not that. It was a method of describing Brahman, or the reality, by negating all that is not eternal. In Patanjali, it was the first systematization of Ashtanga Yoga, and Yama and Niyama are 2 first principles of two first steps of Ashtanga yoga. And so Patanjali Yoga Sutras is a foundational text of classical yoga philosophy. It systematizes the principles of yoga into practical and philosophical guide to self-realization. It has 195 aphorisms or sutras, and it profoundly influenced Hindu, Buddhist, and modern yoga traditions. And also, yes, we can see Yama, like ethics, appear prominently in Jainism and Buddhism as part of the Shramana movement. And Shramana movement was a movement that can be described as anti-Vedic, rejected the authority of the Vedas and the priestly Brahmin class. So it was progress at that time. Asceticism, it emphasized the renunciation of worldly life, celibacy, fasting, and meditation. It described what is karma and rebirth, explored liberation or moksha nirvana, and emphasized individual effort. So individual effort in the sense of exploring oneself, learning about oneself, meditating on it, instead of just following the scriptures. So it was big progress at that time. Yeah, I think that's it. So we compared the yoga ethics with other traditions. We can see that yoga is much more than physical exercise, that it shares common values with other belief systems, and to learn how ethics can change depending on culture, purpose, and practice. The main resources Patanjali is Yoga Sutras, and recommended literature is Guide to Human Conduct. It's a very inspiring book by our Guru Sri Anandamurti, where he gives commentary to Yama and Niyamas. Any questions?
I have a question. It might not be related to the presentation, but I'm just curious. What is the real name for Sri Anandamurti? I mean, like his, according to his passport. Is this, I just came across one audiobook, and he was mentioning that audio.
Sorry, you disappeared. Or is it my connection?
No, I also do not hear him.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking for the name. So Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. Is this like his
Yes.
like a passport name?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, okay. Thanks. Yeah.
No problem. Any more questions?
I think I'm very curious good summary, very good comparison. I guess good use of ChatGPT as well. I kind of recognized its signature at some point. But very interesting parallels between Stoicism and yoga philosophy. I think if we were to go deeper, we're very interesting to know the foundations of the philosophy of Indian philosophy, because there are six schools. And yoga is considered one of them. And different kind of researchers say that they speculate about different kind of how do you say? They date that yoga goes way back. And same thing for Upanishads. Yeah, and by the way, I do recommend to read Upanishads. I remember read them very long time ago, just when I started on the path. It's very inspiring. But some of the things are more ritualistic, more strange, more like culturally specific. But there are some very inspiring points there. Inspiring poems, inspiring thoughts, inspiring ideas. And there are quite a few books in modern books of researchers on ancient Indian philosophy. So you'll be able to find them. And some of the Anandamarga scholars, they also wrote some books on the history of Tantra yoga, of yoga. But again, we don't know for sure. When it comes to history, we have different perspectives. But the essence, I mean, it's clear. We can really clearly see that those principles and values are like, many of them are cross-cultural. Okay, 9:45. Stop recording.